Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome along. It is Friday night. So, of course, you know what that means on a Friday night on Boise Bus. It's time to go a wee bit of time travelling back into the old archives. And tonight's subject at hand is all about dream debutants, those Celtic players that came along and couldn't have got off to a better start. Some guys that might get mentioned tonight might have faded off pretty quickly. On other ones, they just kept it going. We'll be going through a few different ones tonight, a few different positions all around the park. It's not necessarily about a goal-scoring debut, but yeah, we'll be covering that tonight. And as you can see, folks, tonight I'm joined by Steve-O Matt, who, interestingly, if you're watching last night on the TNF, he was wearing the 94-95 home shirt, and he's actually moved up a season to the 95-96 home shirt. So just moving along. So I'm expecting the Stop the 10 shirt next time you're on screen, Steve-O.
Beautiful, mate. I've got that. I'll do a wee bit of continuity. Try and work through the seasons best I can.
Aye, man. The good sounds a cracker at the top. I've got the replica one that they did a couple of years ago that doesn't have Umbro on it. Yours has got SFL badges and everything. That's an
original, mate, and
it's awesome, mate.
Like my one last night. It's a original 90s sizing. I'm a big guy. This is a large, and it's like a fucking tent.
Swimming on you. Oh man, that will be huge, mate. But no, I've got a funny feeling that the first player we might be talking about tonight may have worn that type of that Celtic shirt. So I think we might be talking
maybe persuaded me to wear it.
Yeah, we sure did. And of course, look who's back, folks. He missed last week. He was a busy man over in Canada. It is Canada's favourite Tim. Is a punk duck warlord himself, the wise man of the bus. Liam Greenlaw, it's good to see you, mate. Welcome back.
Cheers, Phil. Sometimes it's like being on the moon sometimes here, you know. You just get the technology right and that. But anyway, good to be back in the bus, and thanks for having me back on, Phil. How you doing, Steve? Mate. How you doing, Steve? How you doing? You all right, mate?
Mate, I was just waiting for the bang, internet connection. I thought you paused. Sorry.
So far, it's looking good.
I am doing well, and as I say, listen, this is it's always good to join you two guys. I'm an early 5:30 morning rise tomorrow, so I might not make it all the way through, but we'll certainly get through the first half minimum, and I'm looking forward to it.
No worries.
I'm looking forward to this one as well. You know, I thought this was a good idea when you talked about debuts and first starts and all that, and it was cool. It brought up some interesting conversations with a couple of guys I was talking to a few weeks ago about football, and he was talking about seeing Kenny Dalglish's start.
Topical Kenny Dalglish, friend of the show, friend of the channel, Kenny Dalglish. Very topical right now.
So we'll talk about that a wee bit later if you want to talk about some of the other guys that aren't on the list. The guy, his real start was kind of interesting.
Nice, okay. Be good to hear that one later on. I'm always open to hearing these type of stories because, again, you know, every day's a school day when it comes to Celtic and the old archives. Before we go any further, of course, folks, I will remind everybody to do all that good stuff. So, of course, if you're brand new to the Boise Bus, only just discovered us and want to keep us in your life that little bit longer, then by all means hit that subscribe button and make sure you hit the old bell notification to be reminded of when we go live. I think it's like 3,660 something at the moment have done so. So join them. Why not? You know, they've done it. So take that next step, folks. Of course, hit the like button. Helps out with the old algorithms on YouTube. Gets us the name of the bus out there and more people's recommended videos. Of course, get involved in the comments tonight as well. We always enjoy that on a Friday night, particularly hearing your memories about debuts. Were you in attendance at any of these debuts that we might be talking about tonight? Let's say the first one I think we'll be talking about. There may be a few people in the chat that will remember that one very, very well. And of course, you can share the link to the Boise Bus here, there, and everywhere. And of course, you can follow our new Twitter account at Boise Bus. As for sponsors tonight, of course, we've got piesports.com, a staple now of the bus up there in that top corner. Of course, head over to piesports.com. And use the code BUS1888 to get a nice, very tasty 12.5% off. And, of course, our other sponsor on the bus, which we absolutely love, the puns and stuff that are coming up. This one coming up. Yeah, there you go. Yes, of course, edpharmacy.co.uk. Don't stand around lifeless like a Tony Mowbray. Have a spring in your step like Martin O'Neill would do. edpharmacy.co.uk. Use the code BUS10 to get 10% off on that one. Steve, I can hear you laughing. Good thing that ED Pharmacy was over your face.
Don't be a Scott Bain. Be a Packy boner. Get a boner.
Oh, dearie me. No, I just thought back to when we were talking about the Tony Mowbray season. One thing I thought about his body language, how he'd always just just lifeless, just nothing, just not doing anything. But Martin O'Neill, he always had a spring in his step. He was always jumping all about that sideline. So be more like Martin O'Neill, folks. edpharmacy.co.uk. Plus 10 for your needs there. Now, quick trivia question for you. Quick trivia that I've had to throw together pretty late on there because it's been a hectic day so far for me. So, of course, we're talking about debutants tonight, goal scoring debuts, whatever it may be. Quite a rare occurrence that a defender would score on their first team debut for the club. So there are apparently 4 defenders that have scored since the year 2000 for Celtic on their first team competitive debuts. So that's what I'm looking for tonight, guys. The 4 defenders who scored on their first team competitive debuts for the club. There might even be 1 or 2 more. As I say, I had to put a question together really, really quickly there. And I'm sure people in the comments will keep us right if there's any more. But I've got 4 definite ones. 1 or 2 of them might even get a mention tonight. Who knows? I'll keep you guessing on that one. But anyway, let's get into it. And I think, as I've alluded to at the top of the show, he's the guy on the main thumbnail, the sort of front and centre one. I think we need to talk about this guy because it's not just a good debut and it's a great moment in club history. It's got an amazing story around it, but the build-up to it and what happened is just one of the most bizarre events in club history, maybe Scottish football history. And of course, it is the ballad of one Georges Cadet. As I said earlier on, that top that you're wearing, Steve-O. Mr. Cadet, he wore that one magnificently.
Are you trying to suggest that there was skullduggery up front in the registration of a player?
Perhaps, mate. Perhaps there was, yes. Yes, there was shenanigans afoot, I think you'll find, sir. But yeah, George Cadet, we did do the 95-96 season on Bustalgia earlier in the season. It was obviously a season that's fondly remembered by many, many fans because, it was the entertainers season. Tommy Burns, that team that he was building. This is before the Canio joined, but we had obviously Van Hooijdonk and Tom, guys like Simon Donnelly, Jackie McNamara, Paul McStay was still fit enough to play 30-something games a season. John Collins. They only lost 1 league game all season. What was it that let them down? It was obviously putting the ball in the back of the old onion bag. There was too many draws, too many snidey points thrown away against teams like Motherwell and Kilmarnock and so on. But what we needed was a guy who was pretty much certain to put it in the net if it fell to him. And along came a guy who would actually cross paths with in a UEFA Cup tie just a few years before. He was a Portuguese international. God, a few years ago, over the couple of years of the bus, we talk about Juranovic, Croatian international, or Portuguese international. How far does that take you these days? But yeah, George Cadet, who played for Sporting Lisbon against us and was a bona fide Portugal international. I believe he went on to play Euro 96 as well that summer. But yeah, in the early part of 96, he was also on our radar. Sensationally, Liam, we announced his signing at the end of February 1996 at a game with Partick Thistle in the league. He was paraded at half-time or before the game, and he didn't actually kick a ball for the club until the 1st of April because, yes, one Jim Farry was caught red-handed by Fergus McCann, but yeah, the debacle behind that, because I believe he missed 6 or 7 games in which we dropped more points. I think we drew with Motherwell. We had a game against Rangers on St. Patrick's Day that year, which we drew again. It's like, man, see if we just had Cadet. And then, of course, the big one that his registration being held back caused was he got to eventually play in league games, but he couldn't play in the Scottish Cup. So the semi-final against Rangers, he obviously did not get to play in that one. We ended up losing the game 2-1. Rangers won the double that year. Boo. But yeah, so Liam, it was a surreal moment. But Fergus McCann, fair play to him, he smelt a rat right away on that one. And like a dog with a bone, he wasn't letting it go, was he, mate?
No. The wee man was right onto it right away. But so was everybody. I mean, it was so transparent when it was happening in real time. And it wasn't like people weren't talking about this, or this all was uncovered by the press later on. No, this was in the full sight. Everybody knew it was going on. The papers, the talk shows, you know, guys in the pubs, everybody was talking about it that night. We knew that we were getting a recognised, bona fide goal scorer, right? Portuguese international at the top of his game. He had all the hype around him, everything. Portugal was a good side then, right? And we were getting him, and he was coming to us, and he was going to just take this league. That's all we needed. And so I think they recognised how good a player he was as well. You know, so you talk about all your conspiracy theories and all that sort of things. All right, so what about the ones that are true? All right, because at that point, this was a conspiracy theory that they were conspiring to stop us fielding a player to give them an advantage, or to give someone's preferred team an advantage, right? And it was proven to be true. You know, and that's absolutely crazy that in this day and age that we got rid of some of the people, but we've not got rid of the ideology and the, you know, and the thing, oh, this could never happen again. Because no, we didn't really do as much about it. And I don't think Celtic kicked up as much fuss about it as they should have as well. I mean, Fergus McCann, I think he kicked up a fuss. If that happened now, I don't think our board would kick up a fuss. I think that's right there. I think Wee Man would go after him because he just had that, I don't know, that feistiness to him. And it was just like, no, you're not going to take advantage of me, you know? And yeah, and then I think right now it's like, yeah, you're seeing that shit going on with the penalties and all that stuff. And we wish we had a wee Fergus right now that would step up. No. Wait a minute. Let's talk about this in public, you know?
Yeah, funny enough, I think I'd seen a running stat about the people saying that how Rangers are the only team that will have a penalty against them in the top leagues, the top 10 leagues across Europe. And the argument was, well, I mean, Chelsea haven't, so that's that conspiracy window. Chelsea
not anymore.
Last night. Chelsea conceded a penalty last night. So apparently now, there's a guy on Twitter, I think his username is Lint or something like that, Celtic fan, and just pretty much
sometimes a fucking moonhouler, but he puts out some
every day tweets something about them and the stats for them. So that kind of keeps me right on what's going on. So last night I saw him tweeting about Chelsea. I've like seen the penalty. So yeah, I wonder how Fergus McCann would react to that if he was in the boardroom. I think he would be. The VAR shambles that we've seen this year, who knows? But Steve, obviously with that incident, the Cadetti one, it did drag on a wee bit, and eventually he did get busted. But let's talk about the positives. That's when he did finally get to play, when he did finally get to make that debut.
I'm glad you brought this up. So I'm going to take you all on a wee historical magical bus tour on the historical magical bus tour, because I went through. I've got, you know, I'm a bit of Celtic anorak, top of various things that I collect. One thing's Celtic memorabilia and shirts, and I've got a box full of stuff, and I've dug this out. So this is an old Celtic view.
And glossy pages and everything.
And I don't know why. I'll show you through it. Right? I don't know why. So the headline signed, and it's contract extensions for O'Donnell, McNamara, and Simon Donnelly. Donnelly. Aye. Now, the reason I've got this, like, it's a total fucking nonsense, like, nothing paper. It's for the 10th of April, 1996. Now, growing up, you know, Celtic fan before I fucking even knew it. You know what I mean? I was in a Celtic top before I could walk, and you know, there's plenty of Celtic views around the house, and my uncles and all that kind of stuff. But this is the first one that I bought with my own fair money at the cost of £1. And the reason I bought it was because the article's George Cadet, and it was after he scored. So as a young fan, this was the first time where I was, you know, I'd always have magazines and I'd have like shoot and all that kind of stuff. But it was like, you know, it was for posters, let's be honest. It was for posters and stickers and stuff like that. But this was the first time I actually get invested and wanted to like fucking read about Celtic and stuff. So I actually bought this, and there's a nice spread on George Cadet.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Amazing.
And here is a nice picture of him with a Nissan NSX team squad car. Right.
Oh my goodness.
Getting in an NSX by Phoenix Honda squad car. And it talks about his debut. And I'll just quote a wee bit. He talks about scoring the goal, and he says, "That is the first time I have heard anything like that happening. And of course, I was delighted for the supporters who were making that noise."
Oh yes.
And he then goes on to do that new signing stuff, and he throws out a wee nugget, doesn't he? The words of the song have been translated to me, and it is true. It is a grand old team to play for.
Look, that is an amazing note that you've got that still there. Yes. I remember the shiny pages on the Celtic View. You held it up there in the light. I could see.
Here's another good bit. Seal your £25 will secure you a ticket for the new Celtic Park for a season ticket. 25 brick, and you can get a fucking season ticket for the new Celtic Park.
Oh
it's amazing.
God. 25 quid won't even get you a ticket to watch us play like
fucking barely get a fucking pie inside. You know what I mean? Wesley Pie Sports will get you about 10 pies.
Yes, it shall.
Listen, I know I'm getting down a wee rabble. It's just funny. So I was reading through it, and there's a bit where he talks. And he says, I am sorry for the people who had to listen on the radio as the 15 seconds must have seemed like 15 minutes. That was the best I could have hoped for, and I did it for Tommy Burns and the supporters for all their belief in waiting for me. I wanted to prove myself to Tommy and the Celtic fans because it is true what I said after the game last week. They are the best supporters in the world.
Oh man, I love his word in there when he's acting all like he feels dead guilty, like they waited on me. And it's like no, nothing you did wrong, George. Nothing you did wrong at all.
No, as I say, I know that's off on a tangent, but it's funny. Like as soon as we said we're talking about doing this, and I went through and I had this. It was funny as I said that I kept this. All the things that I've got, all the things that are worth anything. Money-wise or sentimentality, I've got this random shitty Celtic View that's garbage, but it was the first one I bought with my own fair money when I was 10. So
very relevant.
Exactly. So it's funny the things that you keep into.
Although I did find it funny when you held up that to the screen. At that exact point, Alistair Jacket came in the chat and says, "Hey lads, I'm signed a new deal yet," and you're holding up a bit of paper that says "signed." Unfortunately, it's not that. It was extensions to deals with Simon Donnelly, Phil O'Donnell, and Jackie McNamara.
But, we're talking about Cadet, and there you go. Such as the impact that he had on me that I went out and bought. I wanted my own copy of the Celtic View to read about George Cadet and wanted to see after his goal scoring debut. That's the effect he had on me.
I'm
surprised we haven't seen Jota cutting about in a Cadet top yet.
Oh, Euro 96 Portugal top or something as well.
I want to see him in a fucking tweed jacket and driving an NSX. That's what I want.
I could imagine Jota going for that hairstyle as well. I could just imagine him getting that perm like Josh Cadet. But you talked about noise there that he mentions in the article. So am I right in saying there's some story about the decibel level was so loud that the radio coverage actually went off the air because of the noise level?
I believe so. I mean, I remember watching it again as an impressionable young boy. When it was, you got it on terrestrial TV, if you remember. It
was on Scott Sport, and it was on ITV. Yep.
And I'm sitting watching it with my mum and dad, and I was lying on my belly, like in front of the telly. Oh, here comes fucking yes, he's coming on. I can't wait. And I just remember Peter Grant slides this fucking beautiful ball, a wee diag sider right through to the left-hand corner. The goalie's charging out, and he's casual over the top, and he runs away, and he's got the number 15. He's in the crowd, and he's spinning around, and what a start!
The celebration once he did the thing with the finger like that.
He kind of half done it. He kind of halfway committed to it. He did this weird kind of like thing where he was getting spun around, but nah, I was invested for the word go. I unashamed mark for fucking George Cadet.
David, can you do us a favour then?
Yeah.
Come on, do it, Cadet.
Aye. That's it. Perfect, mate.
It's not long sleeve though. I need long sleeve.
No, the collar. Just you got to pop it up.
That's Cadet. I did that. The collar, the Cantona thing at the time.
I know, and it's the simple things. It was you were a rebel if you did your top tucked out.
Let it go. That's what was good about him. Collar's pop. Cantona
fully pop, mate.
But what a player, though. I mean, he was seen as the missing piece of the puzzle. It's just a shame that incident happened that basically made us lose him for a month where we could have done with him. Because again, you look at the fine margins, one loss all season, still didn't win the league, dropping stupid points to teams like Kilmarnock and Motherwell and all that. We just had a guy that could just stick the ball in there. I think 3 times out of 4 we drew with Kilmarnock that season. And it's like, man, if we just had Cadet a wee bit sooner, it could have been a different story. They could even just won the Scottish Cup semi-final that he missed. Again, Tommy could have maybe picked up the Scottish Cup that season as well. Could have been a launching pad again going into what would be the ill-fated stopping them from winning 9 in a row season. Because, you'd think with Cadet then adding like the Canio and stuff like that. Whereas Alistair Jackson, Radio Scotland went off the air. And the funny thing was, this was a Celtic Park that wasn't even complete yet. The East stand was still getting built, and I think the temporary stand was up at the Jock Stein end at this point. So it's not even a complete Celtic Park, and that's how loud it was when George Cadet scored that goal. He came on and scored, but Theo Schnell does in goals for Aberdeen, I reckon, about that time, and just dinks it over him majestically. One-on-one with him, just lifts it over beautifully.
Mate, I'm still impressed with Peter Grant's fucking pass.
Peter Grant's pass is incredible.
Come on.
That is a defence splitter of a pass, that one. That really
known
was.
For a great pass, but there you go.
No, it's an incredible goal, and what a start he made. It's just a shame that things went the way they did. We've obviously covered the 96-97 season as well, the Three Amigos season, and the Stop the 10. And again, it's that whole sliding door stuff where you're like, man, imagine if Cadet had stayed for the Stop the 10 season and Larson then joins. You got Larson and Cadet up front and stuff, and it's like these are the things that what could have been. But see what
about his stellar return to Glasgow with Partick Thistle?
He did. He had a spell with Partick Thistle. Aye, he did indeed. And 03-04, run about there, 2003-2004, wasn't it?
Mate, it was dark days, wasn't it?
Oh man, yeah. It was just because he was at Bradford City when they were in the Premier League as well.
Yeah,
he was at Bradford too. But it was just the way it all worked too. Obviously, there was some fallings out and promises made to the old Three Amigos. I think that just never came to fruition. Obviously, Van Hooijdonk was the first one to go, and Cadet left, and DeCanio left. That's the end of the 97 season as well for different reasons. But an incredible striker, and I say it's just a shame that the way it ended up, because that Tommy Burns team, they deserved so much more. Of course, one of the things that did come up was the fact Patrick McGlock was mentioned there. The goal that never was at Ibrox in the infamous New Year game, where we had to win basically to get ourselves in that title race, and got it back to 1 each, and then Cadet equalised to make it 2-2. It would have been. And they decided that he was offside, even though it was a good 3 or 4 yards onside. Then Eric Bo Anderson scored, and just no, just let's no speak of that one. That was a horrible night, and that's type of stuff. Obviously, when he came to Scotland, he was shafted by the system, and then that happened as well. So, yeah, unfortunately, George Cadet, he found out exactly what it means to be a Celtic player in Scotland, especially at that time when they were chasing our record, so it was like everything was just falling their way with that one. But yeah, the Ibrox goal was just insane. The only person in the whole stadium that thought that was offside, that linesman, good 3 or 4 yards.
And it's I'm sure you all agree with seeing it. It's a fucking fantastic finish.
It's a great finish.
What a finish! I mean, it just spins and fucking puts it away. It's fucking, I don't even know words for it. Like, I don't want to get down a rabbit hole, a rant hole.
Rabbit hole in a rant hole.
It's fucking, it's as onside as fucking onside can be. Do you know what I mean? It's
if VAR was around then, would VAR still chop it off?
No.
Well, I mean, some of the stuff we've seen this year, you just don't know. We can't take it for granted. But yeah, George Cadet's a phenomenal player, and one of those ones of what could have been, just a right player at probably the wrong time, really. He would have been a couple of seasons later, say playing alongside Larson would have been phenomenal. But he came in just and got shafted from day one, sadly, and then that happened to him as well.
Can I ask you a question with yourself? Liam, forget, we talk about what could have been. With the Foundations, an amazing team there, and obviously we're so unlucky. And we look at guys like the Three Amigos and stuff. But do you think, the way Celtic tend to work over the years, that by the time Larsson came, we would have still had all of those guys, or at least maybe two of them, or would we have had them but not Larsson? Because we, would we have accumulated that amount of quality? Is what I'm getting at.
You don't get Larsson without Wim Janssen, right? So, I mean, that puts it there at that point. But if you look at the mentality of the club, no, it always looked like we were trading across rather than up and down. We're just shuffling around the deck chairs. We were never making that one bold step to push us that far ahead. We still called it the biscuit tin there. It wasn't a biscuit tin, but it was, again, it wasn't going out there and pushing it out there in a way that was brave to sort of be risky, and you always got that feel it'd be one in, one out.
Do you know, around that time Celtic were in for David Ginola?
Yes.
Yeah, Paul McGrath maybe as well. If we went for that one in there. Well, I did do an episode on people who are almost Celtic players. I did very well that night, I think, not to talk about the David Ginola one, because everybody knows that one. But yeah, we did do an episode on people who are almost Celtic players. But yes, that is a well-known story. Fergus McCann apparently put the guy
just what I meant, like.
Yes. Yes, indeed, mate. Yes, indeed. But here's something a bit weird.
I'm just playing the part of Russell, mate, because he's not here.
Somebody's got to tonight. Somebody's got to. We had AI playing the part of Russell a few weeks ago. Didn't we, Liam? Remember we using AI?
I love Liam's AI stuff, man. It's awesome.
The AI one was phenomenal. But when I was putting this together, like with players like good debuts, there's a ground that I always feel is quite synonymous with debuts, and I don't know if it's just because the transfer windows usually ended around about this time, and we always seem to get sent there. I went and looked at the seasons, because I feel like we've played this team about 10 times in the first 3 or 4 fixtures of the season. Whenever we get sent to Tynecastle, it's always really early in the season. Turns out since the year 2000, we've actually went to Tynecastle 6 times in the first month of the season, and we've also played Hearts multiple times at Celtic Park. It seems like a team that the SFA just love to pair us up with at the start of the season, just get that fixture out the way right away. But yeah, Tynecastle seems to be a ground that, players seem to make their debut at all the time. So usually it's at the time, start of the season, transfer windows usually just ended. And I think one guy, just a couple of seasons ago when Ange obviously came in, that was the night Carl Starfelt made his debut. Kyogo had literally stepped off a plane and came on as a sub that night. But there's a debut from a few years before that I think stands out when it comes to those games at Tynecastle. Because as we know, it's a horrible place to play. It's a horrible set of fans to play in front of. But also at the same time, a lot of away fans will always say Tynecastle is one of the best away days for the atmosphere. But yeah, it's a bit of a cauldron of hatred. But one guy who did literally fly in that morning, came off the bench and scored, Scott Sinclair. Have to be with Brendan Rodgers' first season, well, not his first competitive game. That was and Lincoln Red
suffered and almost get jabbed by some thug as he ran by.
Yes, that's right. Aye, so he did. A Hearts fan's hand just comes out and takes a swing at him as he's running by. Oh, I totally forgot that till you mentioned that.
It's a full-on knockout punch. He came round the wrong side of the net, thought he was going to get to our supporters, and then had to run around a TV camera, brought it in close to the crowd. And you see a guy reaching out, and he just somewhere. It was like, it's a Chuck Liddell UFC punch he was throwing.
Very close.
It was like, my God, and you seen that on television, and he covered that up quick,
Oh, they did. They did, aye, because it's so close to the park, the fans there. He runs behind the goal, but that game, obviously that day, we're playing Hearts away from home, which, interestingly enough, we were the champions and we started with an away game. I know it happened in 2014, but that's because Celtic Park was getting used for the Commonwealth Games. But I cannot remember the reason why in 2016 we were made to play away from home in the first day. The champions always started on. Why?
Reasons,
just reasons. That's it. An email came through to Celtic and it just said reasons. That was that. So I just left them with reasons. That's all you're getting. But yeah, it was. We started there that day. James Forrest put his 1-0 up, which he would go on to have easily his best spell in a Celtic shirt over the next 3 or 4 years. But yeah, this was the kickstart of that. But yeah, they got back into it. Shock horror. They got a penalty, a phantom penalty that wasn't. I believe Mr. Beaton was the referee that day, and it was Jamie Walker. Took a dive as Kieran Tierney tried to tackle him. And
horrible individual,
there's about
boy.
That much of a gap between the legs, and he throws himself down. John Beaton penalty. So it's 1 each. It's getting late in the game. Scott Sinclair's flew in that morning. No, he had a chance to really meet his teammates. Comes off the bench, and yeah, quite late on in the game. We're in the last 10 minutes of the game. It's a counter-attack, I believe, from a corner. And to say the least, the pace was frightening, Liam, when you see it in real time. Lee Griffiths breaks up the left-hand side, and you just see Sinclair running through the middle. And we all knew he was a quick player anyway. But yeah, even in real time, when you saw it, you're like, the pace he was burning. And yeah, Lee Griffiths, a perfect ball across, and Sinclair finishes it brilliantly. And Scott Sinclair was off and running, to say the least, because what a player he would turn into for us. But that goal in that moment, what a place to do it as well at Tynecastle, because, say, horrible ground, Liam, horrible fans. Always good to stick it to them, mate.
Like somebody giving you a brand new button on the Xbox, you know, to control. All of a sudden, this like rapid movement of speed in that wing that we hadn't seen in Celtic in a long time. And it looked good to see that in action, and thinking how exciting that would be to watch games coming up there, where that was now going to be a threat that we had as well. And he lived up to that. I mean, he showcased what he was going to do for us, and then he did it again and again. Brilliant debut, brilliant player.
Oh, phenomenal player. Somebody that I think I intend to do some sort of like player-focused episode about down. Like, I loved Scott Sinclair. You know, he was the first 2 seasons in particular. He was phenomenal. That first season, there's not something like 25 goals he went on to score in that region anyway, Steve-O. It was a ridiculous number, and playing from out wide as a wide forward as well. You know, him and Dembele together just seem to complement each other so well. But yeah, I say, what a place to get your first goal, and to basically fly in that morning, not have a chance to really train with the team or really meet the team. But he was an oven-ready player, should we say? That's a good way to describe it. I'd say Scott Sinclair fits that, and he proved it.
Yeah, you know, as you say, it's a great place to score, and also in a sort of one of those games where, you know, the anticipation with the new era, Brendan Rodgers and everything, and there's that moment I sort of like, is this going to happen? And on cometh the man, you know, and the ball goes in and sends everybody into raptures, and it's absolutely perfect, you know. And she says he goes on, and he's a fantastic period. And very fond memories of Scott Sinclair. A great signing, worth his weight in gold. It was a wee bit disappointing how it petered off near the end, but you know, a phenomenal start and a phenomenal first season. And definitely the kind of thing that I think that Celtic shouldn't shy away from. We had some success with Joe Hart, but I think there's a lot of value in getting guys who have got that level of experience that it's just maybe not quite happened for south of the border or elsewhere, and not doing what the other team do and paying them over the odds to come up here. But if you can get guys and get them to buy into playing football and winning trophies and playing in Europe, then you know we should be looking for these kind of individuals again, I think. And I would take a guy in the mould of Scott Sinclair again anytime soon.
Definitely. I mean, there's so many players that fit that mould down in England. Whether Ange looks in that type of market, I don't know if he does. But I think Sinclair was a victim of decent English player, a smaller team, and you've got the whole rules of UEFA where you need to have X amount of homegrown players. Teams like Chelsea, Man City, and that come along, and all they do is buy foreigners, and they're like, we need some English players to meet the whole quota for the UEFA squad. So they just go inside guys. Another one that fits that category, a guy like Ross Barkley, you know, comes along. He's
Jack Rodwell.
Same deal.
Absolute same deal.
Yes.
You know, the guys who are performing well, but you know, you can't blame them for taking the move. You know, careers are short, and you want to win things, you want to play, but you've got families to feed, you've got futures to think in. Let's be honest, if you get offered the contract, you're going to take it. You know, who are we going to be speaking about in a few years? What's it going to be? Who was his name? The boy at Man City with the fucking, he's got the kind of curly hair. No,
not
the
at all.
kind of curly hair Leeds player.
Oh, Calvin Phillips. Yeah, he has another one that fell into that, yes.
Jack Rodwell and Scott Sinclair are the proto version of him.
Yeah, that's a good shout, by the way, because that's another one. I forgot he was even at Man City till a few weeks ago. You know, they were playing like a sort of second string team, and he was in the team, and I was like, I forgot he even signed for them. So they do that in England a lot, and I think Scott Sinclair just fell into that category and just so happened to work out for us. He was completely lost. Like, he went to Aston Villa and got relegated, unfortunately, and it was like, well, they need to get him off the wage bill. Brendan Rodgers, of course, worked with him. And yeah, he came up here and he was an absolute revelation for us, to say the least, over the next few years. That first season was incredible. Scott Sinclair, he became a real scourge against that lot across the city as well, without a shadow of a doubt. Now, when it comes to, we're talking about dream debuts and stuff, it isn't always necessarily about scoring a goal. Sometimes it's about keeping the ball out of the net, and that's quite topical. So we're talking about goalkeepers right now. No, we're not going to talk about Scott Bain. Don't worry about that. We're going to talk about that one. No, we're going to be talking about old Bain. As I said the other night, Hulkabania is running wild. So we're going to talk about him. We're going to talk about an academy player that came through in his first team debut. Talk about getting thrown in at the deep end, thrown right into the fire, sink or swim, because obviously this is quite topical as well when it comes to our European forum, to put it lightly. Our knockout forum is quite honking. The last time that we won a knockout game after Christmas was 2004. But hey, we only beat Barcelona in that knockout game as well. But yes, a young David Marshall was on the bench in the home game. And then at half-time, carnage reigned supreme as Rab Douglas gets sent off. Valde got in a scrap, I believe, Thiago Motta in the tunnel. Referee had to step in, all sorts of madness. And Rab Douglas gets sent off, and Magnus Hedman had proved already that season that he just wasn't really the answer. And young David Marshall was on the bench, and it's like, okay, kid, you're going on. And he was put on in that night, which we actually won the game, and he kept a clean sheet in the second half up against Barca, albeit I think they finished the game with 9 men. But guys, that second game, his first actual start for the club, was of course in the new camp in the second leg. Liam, is this the definition of a game when you talk about watching it from behind the couch, behind the sofa? You know, this is that type of game, isn't it? I think only minutes into it, he makes a ridiculous save at the feet of, like, I want to say like Xavi or Iniesta, just like food. He just throws himself down at the feet and just like scoops it away. And it was like, that set the tone for the night. And it was a very uncomfortable 90 minutes. But what a start he made.
Christ, see the carpet that night, it was that sticky. Everybody was making every save with him. There was pints going everywhere. You're watching a game and everybody's playing goal with him at the same time because you were that invested in him being, you know, the story academy player. Here he is, he pulled it off last time and now he's in, you know, new camp with Barcelona and all that, and I didn't let us down. It was brilliant. One of the Roy of the Rovers football type moments. I think it's like, you know, he's playing for his family and his pals and all that. You know, grew up in the academy and here's a chance to do it on the biggest stage and everybody's watching. Fuck, David Marshall, man. That's a legend. That's a Celtic legend. That boy went into the deep end and came out.
He definitely did. He managed to swim that night. It's just a shame though, Steve-o, how it sort of went for David Marshall, because at that point in time, we already could tell that Martin O'Neill had a wee bit of a blind spot even at that stage for goalkeepers. He'd obviously started with Jonathan Gould, who he inherited. He brought in Rab Douglas from Dundee. You know, what can you really expect? Now, Douglas was okay at times, but definitely had his flaws, especially coming to collecting crosses. Magnus Hedman came in. We spoke about him just a week, Liam, and we're doing, you know, those players that flatter to deceive. You thought, Magnus Hedman, a Premier League oven-ready goalkeeper? This must be the answer. I didn't go well
fucking
at all.
Burnt, mate. He was left on 300 for
he was absolutely burnt. But then, David Marshall, and it's that dream of every fan. You know, you see the youngster come through and make it at Celtic, and he has that great performance. And I think he finished out that season as the main goalkeeper. But incredibly, in the next season, we chopped and changed it again. And by the end of the 05 season, Rab Douglas is back in goal, throwing the ball in the net against Rangers when Gregory Vignal scored from about 30 yards against us. And then, of course, Bratislava happened, and it was like, that was it. He was done. Artur Boric came in, and the rest is history. By David Marshall, another one of those what could have been, Steve-o.
Yeah, I just wanted on Paul Dye's comment there. I just want to bring up. We've all heard that moment. It's brilliant. You see the sit down, the chat, and it's I think it's Jackie McNamara and Tomo to deliver the story. And he says, "Fucking what? There's a bit I go to," and fucking Bobo lamps him. He's like in a stramash, and he goes in and he says, "We're half time." And Captain come out. Captain comes out. It's Jackie Mack, and he's like, blah blah blah. Number 15, red card. He's fucking off. He says, "So I slide back in." So who the fuck's number 15? Who the fuck's 15? Who the fuck's 15? You know what I mean? I don't know who that is. So I walk in, and Martin O'Neill's at the fucking whiteboard doing it. And he's like, "Rab, you're off." And Martin's like, "What the fuck? What the fuck?" It's like, this guy had it. It's like, the way he delivered the story's fucking brilliant. I love it. It's not like, I'm flogging a dead horse, but it's class. But nah, listen, you know, he comes in, and it's a phenomenal game. It's a phenomenal performance at the Nou Camp. And yeah, do you know what? He looks good. And not to poop on the party, but hindsight's a great thing. Would we have done better if we persisted with David Marshall and gave him more chances? It's hard to tell. I think he's maybe one of those situations where he's a kind of victim by design, where he did so well on such a memorable debut that people's expectations of him were like straight up there. Almost similar to like when Bane gets dropped in at Ibrox, and you know, Bane's the answer, but long term he's not quite there. I think if we're being honest, David Marshall for me never really became a quality goalkeeper until he went down south, started playing the Championship. Was he a missed opportunity? Perhaps we maybe could have divided up our goalkeepers and gave him more game time to see how he actually looked. But yeah, I think that was maybe a case of the manager, rightly or wrongly, going with his tried and tested and reverting back to Douglas. And then trying out other things. But no, listen, we can't take it away from him. With fantastic performances, the kind of stuff that we as fans grow up and you dream of and you want to see. But you know, I'm not going to buy in and say that I think he was a missed opportunity. What I would say is when we were loosely linked with him a couple of seasons ago, I've absolutely taken him. Because I thought, as I say, as he was coming back to what I said about Joe Hart and Sinclair, guys who had vast experience, not cost a lot of money, get him in. I wouldn't have him now. I mean, he looks like rat shit again. You know, I've seen him at Hibs.
It's all been downhill since Patrick Schick lobbed him for the halfway line in the Euros. That was,
but no, listen, fair play is due. He had a fantastic games against Barcelona, and you know what? In his career, he can take that to the fucking bank. You know, he can take that home and talk about that for years.
Oh, without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt. But yeah, that's to say, when it comes to memorable debuts, not always necessarily about the goal scoring exploits. They keep the ball at the net. It's just as important, and he was unbelievable that night. But again, it's one of those sliding doors things. If we kept him on, you know, and he did well, would Arthur Boric have happened and so on. So again, it's like what you said earlier on about, you know, does Henrik Larsson happen if we do keep Cadet and DeCanio and all that? So yeah, it's one of them. And I think we're all happy. And that was John Barnes. It was Dimitri Karin. Yeah, former Chelsea goalkeeper. Yeah, it was John Barnes that brought him
Wore
in.
tights, never trusted a goalie that wore tights.
Oh yeah, remember the Hungarian keeper from a few years ago that always wore the brown joggies? Was it grey joggies he wore? I call it. It was a colour that didn't match his kit. Basically, it was either brown or grey or something he was always wearing. But yeah, it was a Hungarian goalie that was at Fulham. But yeah, it's always weird when you see the goalie wearing joggy bottoms.
Theo Snelders wore him, never trust him.
Theo Snelders, I don't know. I talked about him earlier on as well. Cadet, just thinking it over him. But yeah, when we're talking about debuts, here's one that I think it's quite a polarised one, because one of these players, we signed two players at the same time from the same club. And I think many fans, me included, were more excited about what turned out to be the wrong one. Because in 2015, in Ronnie's first season, halfway through it, we dipped into the Scottish Premier League talent pool. And it's that whole thing about, you look at the other teams around trying to sign the best talent, you know, of what's available. And, well, we Rangers being nowhere, and we wouldn't obviously sign anybody from them. Dundee United had Stuart Armstrong and Gary Mackay-Steven. Gary Mackay-Steven was a guy that I was well excited for us to get, because he fitted the bill of what you think a Celtic winger is. Skillful, you know, you see all the tricks he used to do, all the step overs. he's a guy that would get you off your seats. I was so excited when we signed him. But I remember at the time on social media, we obviously signed Stuart Armstrong at the same time, and many Dundee United fans were like, that's the guy you should actually be paying attention to. And in an unusual, one of these weird accolades that doesn't happen too often, the two of them made their debut on the same night away to Partick Thistle, just after the January window. And after 15 minutes, I believe it was, Liam, both of them had got on the score sheet. But were you like me, Liam? Were you more excited about Mackay-Steven or Armstrong? Because I say I was very much like, oh, buzzing, we've got Mackay-Steven, all these skills and all that. And then it was like, nah, he just wasn't going to make it. It was Stuart Armstrong all along was a talent, albeit Armstrong did take a while to get going. Once Brendan Rodgers came in, he found how to get Stuart Armstrong to perform. But initially, that first 6 months, the two of them did hit the ground running.
Everything about that looked good on paper. Everything that you thought was the rationale and the good thinking behind making that, getting those two boys involved in Celtic, was a good idea. They both were flying high. They were both set in the Scottish Premier League. They were making names for themselves and they were getting noticed at that time. And I thought that was good for us at that point to say, okay, how many times do we feel we've let these players move away from us or get by us because we didn't grab them at the right time, and then they go to a place like Hull or something and we can't afford to buy them now, you know? Whether, you know, a year before they were playing with Hamilton or something, you know? Yeah. And so I thought that was really good in our part, and I thought the same as well. I thought Gary Mackay-Stevens, I bought all the hype. I'm thinking, Jinky, all right, how long have we know how to play with a winger like that. We know how to bring a guy like that into the game. Fans will love him. So his platform was already set for him. He had to go and perform, and his debut was pretty good, but he came on. Whereas Armstrong was more like, right, show us, impress us, you know, you're at the table, you know, because that's a much better position. I think that's why it took him a wee bit longer to settle.
I think it was an issue that we had was Ronnie was very, very regimented in the system he wanted to play. It always had to be 4-2-3-1. And it got to a point, I can remember Steve-O, just as his second season started, and we had an absolute disaster class out in Malmo, where they beat us in the qualifiers. And I think Armstrong played as like left attacking midfielder that night. So he's out wide attacking rather than being that box-to-box guy in the middle. He was out in the left, and I remember a lot of fans that night. He was one of the guys that took a real, lot of fans were like, oh, he's rubbish, he'll never make it, and so on. And that second season under Dyler, most of the team just regressed massively. And by the time you got to the end of that, everyone's like, well, you know, he's done. You know, if Stuart Armstrong left, it was like the list that you sent to us last night, talking about these are all guys, if they left tomorrow and the current team, how swollen the squad is, you probably wouldn't lose sleep. At that point in time, Stuart Armstrong had left in the summer of 2016. I don't think anyone would have batted an eyelid. They would have like, that's it. But of course, it was when Brendan Rodgers came in, and it was, of course, the 5-1 game, the infamous 5-1. He scores the last goal. We do get the hilarious caption of when Joey Barton, head down, defeated, going into the back of the net, picking up the ball. There's a camera perfectly positioned, pointing up into that net.
The one.
You see it just after Armstrong scores, and it's like that was it. That was the kickstart that he needed, because after that, he just found a new level. And again, it was just playing him in the right position. That's all it took.
Yeah, I mean, the two of them were interesting signings, to say the least, at the time. You know, certainly we're talking about debuts, they both score. Gary Mackay-Stevens, 30 seconds into his debut for Celtic against Partick Thistle when he scores.
That's really early.
And then shortly after, obviously, Armstrong gets on it. Guidetti makes an arse because he's a greedy bastard. There's the cut it back and he sweeps into the bottom corner. You know, so it's they started like a house on fire. They were very timely and interesting signs at the time. And I think it's very much a case of, it shows where we were at that time as a club signing those guys. There's no discredit to them, but we weren't investing a lot, and it was what's the best of the rest. And it just so happened that fortunately, well, one of them, being Armstrong, worked out. You know, we look at other times we've tried that, like Chief G and stuff like that.
Chief G's name come up in the chat a lot.
So, like, you know, things like that. But it was interesting. I think Dyler, how much had Dyler to do with signing him, I don't know. But they fit the bill for him at the time. And as she says, I'm opposite to you. I wasn't overly excited by Mackay-Steven or Armstrong, if I'm being honest, but I was proven wrong. And as you say, there was times where they were played out of position, they were played in the wrong system, and I don't know how much that was just an idea. We spoke about it yourself, Liam, on as well, when we covered Dyla and things, and we spoke about an identity crisis where we just had guys playing with no real sort of game plan, or we spoke about this free-flowing football and a game plan, but it just looked like you're better than them go out and win a game. And I think when you're talking about them being played out of position and stuff like that and saying in the bin, that was just victim of that being the case, where it was just throw shit and some it will stick, and I think that was it. But it was interesting, as you said, whenever Rodgers came in, the transformation in Armstrong was phenomenal. And, did he leave? Was he perhaps a bit cheap? I don't know. When we sold him, was that a low fee? It was certainly value for money. But Mackay-Steven has just went on for me and proven that he's just an average player with a flash in the pan. Yeah. Whereas Armstrong is, in and out at Southampton, became a wee bit more instrumental, was featuring again. And, there's a guy that's going to drop him out the Prem. He's going to be up for grabs. And I'm not saying go back, but you'd be a good player.
I've seen a couple of people in the chat saying they would take Armstrong back, swap him for David Turnbull. There you go.
Listen, see if you're going to ask me who would have preferred Turnbull or Armstrong, then for me it's a no-brainer. I would absolutely take Armstrong, but no, interesting players, and I think they're very much of a snapshot of a time and a place of where we were at the time.
If only Stuart Armstrong just cleared that ball against England, though, in that qualifier. Remember when Lee Griffiths scores the 2 free kicks right at the death? Into Joe Hart, funny enough. But yeah, they've got an attack at the end, and all he's got to do is just hoof it away, and he tries to be smart with a pass, and they just put the cross in, and Harry Kane scores at the back post. If only. Could have been a famous moment. Lee Griffiths must be like, fuck. He cost me. That could have been his real moment there.
I was at that game, and it was wild. It was wild. Yeah.
Oh, jeez, man. I was watching the TV. Couldn't believe it. We didn't have a shot at goal until the free kick, the first one that Lee Griffiths scored. He scored 2 goals in a matter of minutes. They looked good in stat sheet. But yeah, Stuart Armstrong, man. It was if he just cleared that, I would have done us all the good. Let's keep it though on Dundee United. No, we're not going to talk about Nadia Chifty. And as Patrick McLaughlin said, thank God we never signed Francisco Sandaza. Yeah, thank God we never did that as well. Let's keep it on Dundee United. Let's go a wee bit further back. A guy who's quite topical at the moment because he's recently became a full-time manager in the Scottish Premiership. We talk about pushing that big ginger button. No, it's not Neil Lennon. There's another big ginger button out there. The current Aberdeen manager, of course, Barry Robson, who up until the point when we signed him, he'd had a relatively unspectacular career. He was at Inverness Cali Thistle. I know he was a youth player at Rangers, but he'd been at Inverness. And in Dundee United, he was kind of coming on a wee bit. He was getting a bit of a reputation as by a hard man midfielder. He was standing out in that United team. But yeah, 2007-2008 season, Barry Robson gets signed by Celtic in the January window and has quite a surreal first couple of weeks at Celtic because when he makes his debut, he's one of the few players that scored with his first touch as well in a Celtic shirt. If you remember this, Liam, we're playing Aberdeen up at Pittodrie. We were beating them pretty comfortably. I think we were 4-0 or 4-1 or something up. We've got a free kick. And Nakamura basically goes off. Nakamura's, of course, the free kick taker. And Barry Robson comes on for him. We've got this free kick. Barry Robson's no touch the ball at this point, and he just steps up with his left foot and just pings it. It's not even like high up into the corner like a Nakamura style free kick. He just bends it around the wall, down low into the far corner, and Barry Robson was off and running. And then just to make it even more crazier for him, Liam, he's been playing for Dundee United, and then 3 weeks later, he's lining up for Celtic against Barcelona in a Champions League game. And he fucking scored in that game as well with a mad-looking header. One of the things that always stands out for me, if you ever see the footage of it, at the start, the Champions League anthem, the camera's going along all the players, and everyone's always in the zone, they're concentrated. Apart from Barry Robson, he's got the biggest smile on his face. He is like, I can't believe that I'm in this position. And rightfully so, because he's like, I can't believe my luck. And then he goes and scores a goal as well. What a first few weeks for Barry Robson. And then think, Liam, what he would then go on to do for us and how important he was that season.
I mean, what's it like supporting other clubs? I mean, that stuff just seems normal to us. That stuff like that just seems to happen when we're watching Celtic. Guy comes on and drills it into the back of his net with his first touch of the ball for the club. First touch, I don't think he even steadied the ball. You know, he just came in and just drilled it into the corner. That's your first goal. And his goal against Barcelona, that was absolutely world class. Of course, got a header for inside the 18. And he just took it an absolute peach as well. And you know, what's funny is he had a debut with he came here and he played with Vancouver Whitecaps, huh?
Oh yeah, you said before he was over in the MLS, yeah.
Yeah, oh, it was terrible marketing. They brought out a strip that was brown. I mean,
for fuck's sake,
never good, never.
A shop or something, or somebody's wife, somebody's like their curtains or something. But it was brown with a pale blue, like a Man City blue on it. But brown, like not even a dark chocolate brown, like a naff teddy bear brown, right? And so they were going to, so they're launching this new kit, and so they're going to do like a mass media drive, which means every single billboard, every transit shelter, everywhere they're going to do like a mass buyout and all that. And the star player was Barry Robson, and it was just Barry Robson.
Star player, yeah.
Walking into the underground, people going to the work, and there he's wearing this minging brown kit with a blue band in it, you know, and he's all, you know, and you could just people go, ooh, you know, like that, like the David Beckham or the stuff you're used to seeing on football advertising. It was, you know,
it was doomed to fail. Shit brown top, pasty ginger guy. It was never going to work.
No, definitely not.
Terrible.
That's the thing. See, when he was signed, like, I'd say he was gaining a bit of a sort of reputation from the SPL. He was like a decent player, but I wasn't that first. I just saw him as another squad player, essentially. What he would go on to do, Steve-O, that season, the way things would all work out, him and Paul Hartley together. Jesus Christ, man, what a turnaround it was. It was the key in the end.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And see, when you look at that season, he's a player that, again, you know, you bring in Hartley, you bring in Robson, you're not overly excited. You're maybe surprised that we get them in. The signings, in my opinion, are because Scott Brown's not working out. And we need something quite robust. We need something, I hate to say it, that because Scott Brown did, but that knows the league, but knows it with that physicality, which, you know, Scott Brown was more in, I think when we signed him, was more this attacking midfielder. He wasn't known as the Scott Brown that we now know. So we needed that real fight and determination. And it's interesting that the two of those guys would come in a cheap fee and they would oust, you know, a Scott Brown who came in at 4.5 or something for long periods. But it was essentially what we needed to push us over the line. And when we talk back to, you know, the impact of Barry Robson, it's a toss-up who was more instrumental. Barry Robson had some of the key goals, you know, he'd the glory moments, but Paul Hartley was the unsung hero, the quiet man that was, you know, ticking off things over. But, you know, Robson, he comes on, as you say, his first touch, he low to the goal, his right-hand side, sweeps it in. And he laughs. If you ever see the celebration, he just turns and kind of laughs. It's like, fucking hell, man. Just getting on here. And then he says, you know, fast forward 3 weeks, and he's getting into a game against Barcelona, and he somehow managed to fucking giraffe extend his neck by about 4 inches to like loop it over. It's one of the most like strange looking goals you'll ever see, because his body movement's like so exaggerated, it's hilarious. And then he goes and he plays against Rangers. I can't remember who it is, but I want to say Christian Daly. Somebody. He bodies somebody in the first like 10 minutes. They're like, yes.
It's the first minute. It's the very first minute, and I think the referee does the same. He
gets a penalty and he just fucking rifles it down the middle, and he's coming up on us and. You're like, that's exactly what we needed at that time. And you know what? I've got a lot of time for Barry Robson. I think that he's one of these kind of like, would I say cult hero? Aye, unfancied.
I think
and
so.
Came in and just went, you know what? I am fucking good. I am good. And you know, good times. I enjoyed that. Enjoyed a bit of Robson.
Yeah, it was a great 18 months. It's a shame that his second season, the injuries, so he get riddled with injury, and when Tony Mowbray came in, he's ripped up the whole squad. But yeah, that few months, I think Cult Hero's a good...
Tony Mowbray needs to just fuck off.
No. Luckily, I've covered this season in full, but yeah, I have actually dipped back in there. But Cult Hero's a good one, because that's something that we and Liam have talked about as a future topic, Cult Heroes, and Barry Robson would be a good one for that one, for a shadow of a doubt. But yeah, the infamous Christian Daly elbows literally in the first minute. We always heard stories about him. Walter Smith would tell his players, stick something on them early on, let them know they're in a game. And I think we'd been a year not beating Rangers. Gordon Strachan just couldn't get the better of them. And Barry Robson was like, hold my beer, hold on here. I'll sort it. 1 minute in, just bosh, right into Christian Daly. Like, Jesus.
It's amazing.
It's my favorite. It's one of my favorite games I've ever been to. I always go back to that game. I fucking love that match. It's amazing. I'd probably will do some sort of deep dive on that match alone at some point in the future, because it's so good. The very first minute, it sets the tone. Barry Robson's like, nah, I know the day. He's only having it the day. Just bosh right into him. But yeah, we've came up to the hour mark just now. What I'll do is I'll do a wee quick, I was going to say music interlude, but obviously you guys know the situation with the music. What I will do is I'll be very topical. We'll put this picture of Barry Robson up for the next couple of minutes. Just take a quick break, and yeah, we'll be back in about 2 minutes, guys. But yeah, just admire Barry Robson celebrating that penalty just now while we get a refill of the water. I just think
he's getting burnt to fuck in the sun as he does.
Yes, that was a hot day that day. It was roasting. Right, we'll be back in a couple of minutes, guys. Right, we're back, folks. Yeah, still stranger for the old musical cue, but yes, we're back. We've enjoyed that view there of Barry Robson, yes. But for my high of Barry Robson, yeah.
It's just while we're off, he played with Rangers, Do you know he was a youth Rangers? And when he was in Rangers, he was nicknamed Baby Oleg because he looked like Oleg Koznovsky, for whatever his name was.
Oh, right, one of the Russian players that he had
Stalenko.
So his nickname was...
They had a few. They had Salenko, Alexei Mcginlay'S, and there was another one that began...
Mcginlay'S, was he not the captain with the ginger hair, and they fucking turned up with a big white tracksuit on when he signed?
He might have been that. But yeah, they had a few Russian players at that point, so that's what he was known as.
Training defender they had.
Right.
Governor Jim.
I don't care. He hated them when he played for us.
Well, he did make amends for that, but he's one of the ones that played for them as a youth player and made amends.
Cult hero if you played for them.
His demons were exorcised once he was in us.
He was certainly letting the demons out that day. So the picture I just had up with that penalty celebration. Jesus, man. There we go. Patrick Post is coming in to tell us that's it now.
Kuznetsov.
Yeah,
Kuznetsov.
I believe that's how it's pronounced. Apologies if I butchered that one. And in fact, you know what? He played for Rangers. I don't apologise at all. I'm not sorry one bit.
Fuck him.
Exactly. Right, so let's, after the highs of Barry Robson, guys, let's lower the tone. Right, let's take it down.
No,
let's take it away. Just after the break, we'll get this out of the way now, because obviously, as I said at the start, there are some guys who started with a bang and very, very, very quickly faded away. And unfortunately, this is a season I've not covered yet. It is coming at some point in the next month or two.
It's not. You're not going to pull out Remy Gershon against Inverness, are you? Come on.
No.
All right, thankful for
that. I'm going to say two names. One of them is still at Celtic, technically, but he's out on loan. Albion Ajeti and Shane Duffy both scored on their debuts in a season where we promised so much and delivered so little. Because yes, Shane Duffy, if you cannot remember, scored on his debut against Ross County. The signs were there, the ominous warning signs were there, guys.
Quickly after.
Scored against St Mirren. But the very fact that he managed to injure one of his teammates in the process of scoring said goal against Ross County, because he scored a corner with I think Tumble whips it in. Christopher Julian's in the way, and Shane Duffy, like a freight train, is just like, get the fuck out of my way, and he throws Christopher Julian to the ground, who ends up copping a back injury and is out for about 3 months. And then Christopher Julian comes back and slides into a post against Dundee United and breaks his kneecap and is out for pretty much the rest of the season. Right. And it was Shane Duffy. The warning signs were there, but we have Shane Duffy's names came up before on episodes of Bustalgia. We've talked about the scenario, and again, a bit like Barcaster a week when we talked about it, but it's like all the things that were going on that season, be like, having to isolate, really getting to meet your teammates properly. And yeah, I mean, I was like everybody else, I was buying into that transfer window. I remember the tweet that Celtic's Twitter account put out. They made a joke of Charlie Nicholas's expense because he criticised that transfer window, and they put a caption saying, "Sitting here thinking what a great transfer window this is," which actually got lots of retweets. I was one of the ones that was like, damn right, what a transfer window. Look at that graphic, all the players. This is it. Here we go, 10 in a row. And Shane Duffy, after 2 goals in his first couple of games, it just got worse and worse. And when I say he injured Christopher Julian, Liam, he didn't just injure him. There was a game where he injured Vasilius Barkas as well, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. We were playing AC Milan in a Europa League game, and he slid into Vasilius Barkas and injured him as well. So it's like, this guy just felt like after a good start, just couldn't do right for wrong. Everything that could go wrong for him just did.
I mean, I thought we were getting another comic book legend. I thought we were getting Irish Roy of the Rovers, with the whole backstory, everything about him coming to. And by the way, I'd never really heard of Shane Duffy. He had just gotten into the Ireland team, I think, or he played a few games for them. He'd scored, after we signed him, he scored against Bulgaria, so I've seen him there, scored with a header. So I thought we were getting a good play, but I'd never really, Premier League's Shane Duffy, it's no... Play with Brighton, my radar, Hull, these sort of teams, so I didn't really knew he was coming up. But, as we're all led to believe with internationals and the EPL and the television, that somehow if you've played in the Premier League, you coming up to Scotland, you're going to be absolutely amazing. And so, he came up with those expectations. And then the first couple of games, it was like, all right, I think we've won a watch here, and it looked commanding, Put it this way, Julian went down injured, I wasn't worried, now we're not going to have Julian. It's all right, we've got Shane Duffy. And oh my God, did that ever turn around,
Yeah, to say the least. I think it was the game against Rangers in October that year when Goldson scored the 2s. I know, he's at fault for both of them, Steve-o, if I remember right. He, completely loses marker. The second goal, I think he slides and blocks a shot for Goldson. It just comes right back into Goldson's path and he sticks it away. And it was like, oh, dear. And I think something in my head's telling me he just came back from, some sort of major dental surgery or something like that as well. He was out with that injury, came back, and... yeah, he was playing like he was still on an anaesthetic that day. Most of the team, to be fair.
I mean, for me, I'm going to go out and do something that you never see from me. But Shane Duffy, for me, gets a rare Steve-o pass.
Okay.
Because I think that circumstance is a big thing. Now, listen, we've spoken about the COVID season and we've sat here and we've leathered into players, right? And I will never apologise. I will never change my view on that. That was a fucking shambles, right? But if I look at Shane Duffy and when you actually listen to the man speak, I buy all his reasons. He had issues with his father.
Yep.
You know, wrap that up with the COVID thing. Basically, he's a man whose head's completely up his arse and he's unfit to do his job. But he's offered the carrot, as Ken Dalglish would say, of playing for his boyhood heroes. So he takes it. Now, you can argue the toss that should be motivation enough for you to kick on and be the best version of yourself. But listen, I've been there. I've had my mother in hospital for months and months on end, critically ill, and I know that your head's up your arse, right? No matter what walk of life you come from, I don't care how much you are invested in what you do or whatever, you can't function. So I do give him an allowance. He's proven it because he went back down elsewhere and he's looked good and he's got games and he's played well. So I just think it was a perfect alignment of the stars for the worse for him. When he signed, I ain't going to lie, I'm not going to profess to say I knew everything about him and I was like, oh, what a signing. But what I had seen him, he fit the bill of what we needed because we were quite lightweight. We were looking for a commanding presence, someone that was a threat from set pieces. You know, he scored headers and when the fuck did we ever do that? So he fit the bill. And the only way I can compare him now is he's basically Carl Starfelt. He's a big, rustic, old school defender. Right? Is he great with the ball at his feet? Absolutely not. Is he a fancy footballer? No, but what he is, he'll put his big ugly coat in with things folk are scared to do it. And he's great with the play in front of him. He has limitations when he's asked to play and the ball gets in behind him. So what I've seen him since he left Celtic and the bits I did before it, he was the perfect player at the wrong time. And for me, he just gets a pass because of the state of what was going on in his life at that time. And I think it's unfortunate because in a different timeline, I think he would have been the perfect fit and we would have seen the best of him. You know, kind of being a wee bit sort of philosophical there.
No,
but
you're right.
no, I do feel a wee bit sorry for him. I'm very scathing at the best of times, but I can look at the circumstances with Shane Duffy and feel sorry for him and relate to how he must have been thinking and stuff. And I do think that he would have been a fantastic player for us if circumstances were different. And something as basic as fans in the stadium could have been a difference for him. Now, I know that maybe sounds like I'm contradicting myself or saying, you know, COVID and there's no excuses, but what I mean by that is when he's in that really dark place, it's hard to get that out of your mind. But if you have something like the fans egging you on, it might change. No guarantees, but it might have.
Yeah, the eerie sounds of them playing in those empty stadiums, even though the TV tried to put like a crowd noise over it, I can imagine for the boys in the stadiums playing, you know, you need a bit of the atmosphere there. It's just such a weird season. It's one that I've not covered fully yet in Bustalgia. Yes, I will do it. It is on the cards. It is going to get done. And there's going to be a lot of reasons we're going to look at what went wrong because it's not all on Neil Lennon. There's many problems that season from all angles. And yeah, these are just some of the things that we'll be looking at when we get around to it. But the other guy that I mentioned, of course, is still officially a Celtic player. For how much longer? I don't think it will be for much longer. Yeah. 6 goals in his first 6 games, though. I mean, this was like, what a find. This is ideal. You know, we didn't sign Ivan Toney. Well, looking at what's happened to him this week, well, you know, there's that. But yeah, obviously we convinced Albion Ajeti to come to Celtic, and yeah, Liam 6 goals in his first 6 games. He got injured scoring a goal against Hibs and then was out for a wee while. When he came back, he did not look like the player that we had just before the injury. But again, you were encouraged by it. You thought back to Neil Lennon's first term and you just looked at Gary Hooper, his build, what he did in front of goal, you know, in the 6-yard box. You looked at Albion Ajeti and went, this is Neil Lennon's Gary Hooper for this era. That's what this is going to be. Comes off the bench at Tynecastle and scores, and I say the next 6 games he scores in, and yeah, Liam, here we are. We've still got Ajeti on the books, so actually I'm pretty confident he will not be featuring for Celtic anytime, well, anymore at any point. But yeah, again, high hopes after that first. I mean, how could you not have high hopes after 6 goals in 6 games?
I mean, I don't back down, double down. You know, Lenny was coming out of this saying, listen, they wanted to just give him us on loan, and we said, no. Take our money. Take $1 million. Take us $5 million. Let's not even talk about it. That's how much we want him. Because he's got to be absolutely brilliant for us. First, I don't know how the wheels come off of that one.
Oh,
did something happen behind the scenes? Because that's an odd one. His dip of form just completely crashed. And it didn't look like confidence. It didn't look like we changed the way we were playing. Something happened. Attitude. Something. You know?
Yes. Remember though, there was like issues all season, it felt, with players and fitness that year. And obviously, I mean, Griffiths is the obvious one, but it felt like so many players were struggling for match fitness. And again, it could have just been the surreal times that we found ourselves in. Matches were definitely not getting played at the usual intensity they would be, which obviously benefited a certain team. Training probably wasn't as intense as what it could be. I mean, you think back to when they were allowing footballers back for training. I don't know if you remember this. Remember the Premier League came back and finished the 2020 season, the Premier League down in England. And it was like the first day that they were allowed back to training, and all they were allowed to do was kick long balls to each other.
Yeah.
They were at Arsenal's training ground to, like, if Sky Sports were there that day to show you what they were allowed to do to get back into training. And it was like, say, Aubameyang, and he was just knocking long balls over to, like, Saka or something, whatever Arsenal player it was, just long balls to each other from about 30, 40 yards away. And I'm like, that's training. That's basically the best they're going to get just now. So who knows what these things. But match fitness for us in the COVID season was just awful. Just everybody was suffering. And you had
absolutely
six goals, 6 games, gets an injury, comes back, and just never go back up to speed at all. I don't think did he even score a goal at all for the remainder of that season. I know we try and wipe it out of our mind, but did he? I can't even remember.
I don't think so. Ajeti is a strange one. You know, don't want to flog a dead horse. We spoke about it, but I'll be honest. When he played that game and he scored and then he went on, I was like you, saying this is exactly what Celtic need. He's not going to set the header alight. He's not going to be some fucking fantastic footballer, but he's going to be the right man, right place. He's going to be a poacher, he's going to score. That's what we need, right? But he's shown since then, and even his loan spell, he's shown that he's just shite. I'm not even going to mix the words. He's shite. Right? He's a terrible footballer. He had a small purple patch with Bal, but other than that, he's been shite and stealing a wage. And again, this isn't his fault because, again, the contract gets slid to you. You're going to take it. But the problem was when we signed him, I believe the medical term for it is he was fat as fuck.
Right? Written on the paper. Fat as fuck.
Because, and that's not his fault. Celtic signed him fresh off the beach. Like literally fresh off an extended summer holiday. With no pre-season, no nothing, when he was fat as fuck. He was just sitting about, drinking his pan in, living up the life of whatever it is you do when you're not getting a game for the team that you play for, and then was asked, do you want to come to Celtic and make stupid money? Oh, fucking right I do.
Yeah, give me the contract right now.
We signed a guy who was unfit, not match ready, and a mile off it. What the fuck did we think we were going to get?
And it's
so I'm not surprised that gravy train quickly ran out after a few lucky goals that he got injured because he's no fat, and then went down the fucking black hole of purgatory.
Yeah, that's
But he's got 1 year left in his contract. Fucking tear it up, man. I would see if it
probably
costs
that last night on the TNF. You know, probably is. With guys like him, it probably is worth just.
Aye, listen. I don't know what his wages, but let's just say that last season, if we were to keep him on the books, it would cost us, plucking a number, £1 million, right? Or you can offer him 500 or 600,000 pounds. Fuck off. Just do it.
Yep. Yeah, I would do it. I would definitely. I would just
get him away and
take the
save
plunge.
400 grand. Exactly.
You've got to try and find a suitor for him, and that's just too much. But we'll move on from Yesssss. We're going to take the tones. I was going to get them out of the way after the break. There, get the sort of ones that didn't go too well. So they started well enough, and I will do a deep dive at some point on that ill-fated season, unfortunately. So we will look at more of the reasons as to why it all went wrong. But let's go back to a real maverick, guys, a real favourite in the Celtic folklore, essentially. A guy who, again, going back to Strachan's era, going back to the same transfer window that we signed Barry Robson. On that same window, we also signed a certain enigmatic Greek striker, as a maverick indeed. And what a goal he scored on his debut down at Rugby Park. Of course, is the one and only Samaras. I'm not going to give his first. It's just Samaras. That's how he's been known as. But one thing that I always find funny about his debut goal is just remember that a year later, almost to the day, he scored the exact same goal at Rugby Park. Where
he did. He scores a carbon copy. He scores the same goal.
Almost a year apart. It's freakish, but yeah, it's the Scottish Cup game we're playing in 2007-2008 in February of that year. And we're wearing the sort of dark green with the silver accents on it, that away kit from that season. We're already winning the game, I think, like 4-0 at that point, cruising. And Samaras picks up the ball on the right-hand side. And as I describe it, he marauds up that right-hand side, the marauder, going past defender, just breezing past them, defenders just getting out of the way, essentially. Cuts inside, that here, just, in the wind. He cuts inside on his left foot and he passes into the far corner and then proceeds to celebrate by continuing his run just right over the Celtic fans. And yet, strangely, like almost a year later to the day, we're playing Kilmarnock down at Rugby Park. We're winning comfortably that day as well. And he does pretty much the exact same thing, except the only difference is the finish isn't he cuts across the box. He goes more like towards the near post and sort of like passes it across the goal into the back corner, in the back post. But Samaras, he was another one that played this part in the Barry Robson season we talked about there, Liam. But George Yesssss, he's featured a few times on Bustalgia. He's came up quite a lot. We talked about Samaras Sunday and so on. But he was such enigmatic player where 1 minute he could be phenomenal. And then the next minute it looks like this guy's never played football in his life. Like, how this happened? But at that point in time, that first goal that he scored that day on that debut, you're just like, this is going to be what a player this guy's going to be.
I mean, my God, he divided the support. I mean, it wasn't unified and everybody liking him. There was still people that didn't like him because he had long hair and stuff like that or whatever, It's like, oh, look at big Jesse stoating about there and that crap, I thought he was an absolute legend for the minute. And it just looked good. It was just, could you keep him interested and got on? And I think the more he matured with us, the more he became Mr. Celtic, we've said it before. I thought the stuff he did with JB and all that and bringing that to public attention, wow, that's legendary and cult status. That's a Celtic legend in my eyes, right? And I right fair away, I liked what we were getting there. He just looked apart. You want a big dominating, midfielder with big strides. It just looks like they could burst through any defence, any team in the world at a given day or given notice, and that's always good. You always know you got a chance of winning a game if you feel you've got that sort of guy in your team. And Big Sam for me, he was that, and I thought it was a great debut. And if saw that again, shows you it wasn't like a jet in that where you get a ball off your arse and a scramble in the box. No, it was like calling your shots, in snooker. Watch, I'm going to go there, off him there, and that again. And he did that more than one time, and he did it in big games as well.
Oh, he did. He was definitely a player for the big occasion, and I think something that always worked in his favour. and again, I don't know if this is by design by the player himself, Steve, was you felt like at times Samaras didn't know what he was going to do next, so therefore defenders didn't know what he was going to do next. A bit like what Dyson Maeda can be like these days, where if he doesn't know what he's going to do next, it's usually going to work to his benefit because the defender is backing off him, doesn't know what way he's going to go. There's so many moments, especially when Lennon got a hold of him and played about a sort of left forward. And he had all that space running down the wing. Fullbacks just backing off him. No idea. Is he going to cut inside? Is he going to try and go down the outside? It just worked to his favour, but he did become quite a player, especially under Lennon.
Samaras was an interesting player because his goal-scoring record was actually quite deceptive.
Yeah.
Now, if you were to say to me he's an out-and-out striker, I would probably have laughed at you. Agreed. And I would still do that because he was a player with a real identity crisis, if that makes any sense. He was the epitome of what a free role should be in a forward position.
Yeah. Anywhere
from the midfield to the front. Just fucking let him float about. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And that was the thing about him. As Mark said, not Mark, as Liam said, he was frustrating at times, but you couldn't take your eye off him. I think the term that was always thrown around was enigma. He was an enigma. And the amount of times that I heard that, I was like, I fucking don't want enigma, you fucking score. Just do your job. So it was a love-hate relationship with him. On the balance, I liked him, do you know what I mean? But you're tearing your hair out at the best of times. But no, a key player for us. And he sort of came into his own, as you said, once Lennon sort of got involved. And certainly, I think his big moment, aside from all goals against Rangers and things like that, was the away goal in the black, the tenants with he scores the header. That was his Jesus of Samaras moment, do you know? And that was his big time proper arrival, has been taken seriously. But no, it was a player who wasn't necessarily a first choice, but he was a great option. He was kind of like, we need a Samaras right now. We need a guy who's not a nailer for a start, but when you bring him on, and particularly if he's up for it, you're going to get it. Because that was the thing. I always thought Samaras played football on his own terms. See if Samaras couldn't be bothered, like it was fucking hell, man. As you say, does this guy ever played football in his life? But see when he was up for it, unplayable at times.
I think when you're saying about the whole deceptive goal record, I know what you mean, because he's got a lot of big moments, and they're the ones that stand out. But when you actually look at the black and white of it, of his actual goal record, it wasn't actually like this outstanding, like what Kyogo's doing right now, but he's got so many big moments, you remember them. But he was one of these players. I mean, again, sorry to bring him up, Steve, put your fingers in your ears, but again, the Tony Mowbray season where he bought Marc-Antoine Fortuny and his partner for quite a few games that season was Samaras, and it's like, you've signed Marc-Antoine Fortuny, you told us doesn't score goals, you paired him up with Samaras up to that point, definitely wasn't scoring goals, and it's like,
definitely.
Front two. It's like, what are you doing, Tony? I'll try to. That's the last time we mentioned Tony tonight. He keeps coming up, he keeps getting mentioned. but he was. The black away kit, that's iconic. That one with the winning goal away to Spartak. Although, of course, there's the Samaras Sunday as well, the one that pretty much single-handedly made him that game. Because up until that point, he hadn't even scored a league goal that season. And we were so injury ravaged that Samaras had to start up front that day. And no Celtic fan will forget the Alan McGregor running out his goal, completely lost at sea.
Goes round him, it's right at home.
Although, guys, did you see watching that live in real time? Did you think there was still a chance he was going to miss as the angle was getting narrower and narrower? Because I thought, is he going to score this here? Because it was getting away from him, but he just rolls it in with the left foot.
Yeah, the farther and farther he got away from that, less and less he looked like Henrik Larsson. You know what I mean? You see that angle with Larsson, it's going away. With Samaras, not much,
I mean, I was at the game, so from behind the goal, when you see it, it's clear that you can just stroke it home. So it's a totally different ball game for seeing on telly. I will give him the pass that I thought it was happening.
No, that's fair dues, but I say it's one of the moments in time where I felt like time stood still for a second when he went round him. It was like sharp intake a breath moment, like, oh God, this is the moment that's going to make or break him. And luckily it did definitely, because obviously the next goal as well, where he absolutely runs through the Rangers defence and wins a penalty. Ibrox as well. Oh God, what a rarity that is. But yeah, we will move on now to a guy that was also featured on the thumbnail, a guy that I think we need to talk about. It's one of the sort of last ones that we'll concentrate on next minute. An hour and a half just now, so I know we're on a bit of a tight schedule tonight. So the last guy we need to talk about, I know he divides a lot of opinion with Celtic fans nowadays. He's got a wee bit of a chip on his shoulder, shall we say, for how it ended for him at Celtic. But when you look at what he did in a Celtic shirt, if you base it purely on that, I don't think you can deny the fact that this guy was a pretty good player, and he's got quite a unique accolade to his name, and that player is Chris Commons. As I say, very much divided opinion, and whatever your opinion of him nowadays, I totally understand why. So he's not exactly covered himself in glory since he left the club, but obviously he was brought in by Neil Lennon halfway through his first season in charge, 2010-11 season. He was kind of like that missing piece of the puzzle, because Stokes and Hooper had been doing the business together up front. They had been linking up really well. It became a quite fierce forward line. But then in comes Chris Commons, who'd came in for Derby County. Of course, there was a chance that he was maybe going to sign for Rangers. We talked about this not too long ago on the show, where Rangers said they wanted him at the end of the season. Celtic got in there and says, no, you're going to come now. He obviously joined. But yeah, Liam, he's got this unique accolade where he scored on his first start for the club against Aberdeen. He scored in his first home game for the club, which was against Rangers, and that also meant that he scored in his first game against. He also scored his first game against Rangers, which was at Ibrox in the Cup game, which we talked about just a few weeks ago when we did the Scottish Cup Scalpings. We talked about that epic 2011 2-2 draw that went to the replay. When Commons scored in that game, that was his Glasgow Derby debut, and he scored in that. And then his first home game was also against Rangers. We beat them 3-0. He scored there. And yeah, his club debut. So he's got a triple whammy of debut moments as well. He ticks a few boxes there. But again, Chris Commons was just a phenomenal player. He was, as much as we're not fond of him nowadays. You can't look by the fact of how good he was when he was playing in a Celtic shirt.
Oh, when he came into us, and then he became an immediate Scottish internationalist as well. No, we were crap at the time, mind you. But he came in and without much fanfare, hit the ground running really, really quickly. Became an integral piece of the team. Looked like a bit that we were missing was that, not an out-and-out striker, somebody that could get a bit of dig in the midfield and that. But I don't know, there was nothing about his personality that, as far as the debut of seeing him play the way he did in his record and that, wasn't like Samaras where you're excited that you're going to be getting something a bit special, something that's going to be like a really good player for you and that. And with Chris Common, I always think we were getting good value. We finally got something in England that was good value for money, and it was going to do a really good job for us. So he looked like really good utility and value at that point. But was it exciting? Nah, it wasn't like signing, some of the other debuts we've talked about,
Yeah. Oh, he's one of the under the radar signings, you could say, where you're not expecting much from him. So the kind of the bar's sort of low. I know he scored. I remember him scoring a really good goal for Derby against Man United in like a League Cup game and knocked them out of the League Cup. I say he was kind of breaking into the Scotland team. That was my only real exposure to the guy. But yeah, so he comes in. If I remember right, his first goal against Aberdeen, it's like a cross turned shot from out wide and the left at Hampden. And it just sort of dips in at the back post. They say the first goal in the Glasgow Derby plays is only like, we fall behind quite early on with Jamie bloody Ness, scoring a wonder goal from about 35 yards, whatever it is, right in the top corner. And he just, the finish for Commons to get us back on level terms. It's a very composed finish. I think he actually tells Gary Hooper basically to get the fuck out of the way, because it's one where it's coming to Hooper and he just leaves it. Commons just side foots into the net. And then the goal in the home debut for him was the 3-0, where Davy Weir essentially got retired by Gary Hooper earlier in the game. But yeah, it's that like swirler shot where he cuts across the box and he hits it with his right foot and it sort of swirls away from Alan McGregor. But yeah, I say what a start he made. Coming in with an absolute bang. But what we talked about when it came, like, Liam was alluding to there, Steve, like his attitude and stuff at the time, it didn't really, you didn't really pick up on that. And funny enough, in his second season, I think he only scores 1 goal in his entire second season, because it's against Rangers in another 3-0 game where he just dinks it over Alan McGregor. He's like one-on-one with him and just chips it. But I think it's the Lennon's last season, 13-14, where he scores like 30-something goals from midfield that season.
Yeah.
He was a man possessed.
It was phenomenal. First, I've got to apologise. I disappeared there. I don't mean to be rude.
Right.
No, I wasn't getting cargoed up. I am in work tomorrow, so I had a nice bottle of old school here and a wee beer, and that's me done. I heard a wee bit of noise outside. So down where I live down by a river, and unfortunately, being in such a nice location, arseholes, if you will, come down because they're like fucking flies to a moths to a light. Do you know what I mean? And I hunted a few of them earlier on whilst I was cutting my grass, and I heard a bit of noise out there and thought they'd come back. So I went down for a nosy and got myself a Pepsi. But anyway, I could hear everything. Chris Commons, great debut. Comes on. Aberdeen. Ball goes out wide. I think it's Wilson does well to shrug off the player, plays at him. Majestic chip. Just sails over. What a start, And he was a guy that was signed for Celtic that, I'll be honest, I didn't fancy. I saw the merit in him, but I didn't really know what he was going to offer. And as you say, he went on to prove us all wrong. I think the opinion of Chris Commons, unfortunately, has been soured over the years because he seems, for whatever reason, is one of these kind of almost jilted guys.
Yeah.
And I don't really know why. I don't think that he left Celtic on what I would say was bad terms. I think it just came to his expiry, and for whatever reason, that was the way he decided to go. But no, listen, he overachieved. He overachieved for Celtic, and again, coming back to what I said when we spoke about Sinclair and we spoke about other guys, these are the kind of guys that Celtic should be maybe looking at supplementing the current squad with. There's a plethora of guys who fit into that sort of category.
Yeah.
That are unfancied in all positions at bigger clubs, or at least not, Derby ain't a big club, but what I mean is known clubs. And they've got value for money, and they're just not in the right position. And we should be looking at these kind of guys. And Chris Commons was very much value for money and bang for buck when it came to it. And as you say, they scored some classic goals, goals against Rangers. Notably, in the last one you say is where he dinks it over Al McGregor. And I think, is that the one where he runs and he tries to be smart, but he makes an arse and he falls and he's cooking and then he's like, oh, fuck that, I'll recover.
But the build up to that, if you remember, the ball's going out for a throw in and Gary Hooper nutmegs, was it Goyan, the Romanian defender, nutmegs him and plays it inside, and Commons takes a touch, he's 1-on-1 McGregor, and he just dinks it, and then the celebration, he sits there like that in front of the Rangers fans at the corner.
Because he tries to do a celebration like he falls on his cooking, but he recovers and does the wee sit down. So, but no, he scored some tremendous goals, and I always remember as well because he was one of the main contributors, as we've spoke about, in that last game against Rangers, RIP, which was a fond memory for me because I was away with all my best mates for my stag do weekend. We're in Spain, and we saw that game. So fantastic, good times, all good.
See, I remember with Commons though, it obviously began to deteriorate for him because I think there was a comment earlier on about his last season, or the last one under Lennon. Can
I just jump in?
Aye.
Can I just jump in and ask? We'll just say Commons right now. The meltdown. Yes or no?
Oh, I say, oh God, right. This what I remember we covered this season because we 3 of us did this season, didn't we? 15-16. And the only funny thing was, I put that as a poll.
Opinion?
I put that as the poll that night, and do you know what I forgot to do at the end of the show? I forgot to check the poll results. That was my poll thing. So I was like, who did you back? I'm going to take a guess that most people were on the manager's side. Because at the end of the day, it should be the manager should be the one that gets backed in this one. But yeah, player power was very evident there. I mean, again, I would lean towards the manager, but you've got to take in context how bad things were getting at that point. You could tell that something was very, very wrong. By all means, if they had words in the dressing room and it was behind closed doors, understand it. Doing it publicly like that was not good. And the very fact he continued to play for Celtic for the rest of the season after doing that showed that how weak Ronnie Deila was in terms of having a control of that dressing room. So ultimately, I can understand them venting to the manager privately, but no doing it publicly. You should never ever be doing that. There's only one outcome with that one. But what you said earlier on about how it ended for him, I think Brendan Rodgers had sussed that when he came in. He'd seen all that happen the year before and just went, nah, for me. And yeah, he didn't play for the first half of Brendan's first season. They went out to Hibs for the second half of the season, and yeah, didn't kick a ball under Brendan Rodgers. But it did deteriorate, obviously, under Dylon. You're talking Liam about his attitude. We didn't know at the time. But
so see with that, do you think, again, sorry to interrupt, do you think that was the last vestiges of lad culture? And he was one of those guys that had to go.
Yeah, he couldn't handle the whole new fitness regime and all that. And he was definitely one of the leaders of the old clique problem in there that definitely hindered Ronnie's time at Celtic without a shadow of doubt. I mean, Dyle was up against it for day one, but certainly not going to help when you're walking into a dressing room and that's what you're up against. But you remember as well in Ronnie's first season, before it really began to deteriorate, Commons' contract was up at the end of that season, and there was a lot of public displays. Was his wife not on one of the supporters buses and all that? There's all these weird moments where we played Hamilton Accies in a game, and he did the whole thing he gave his boots away to the fans at the end of the game. It was oh, that's saying goodbye to the fans. It was a big public spectacle. And then he scored a goal against Rangers in a League Cup game as well. And there was all the talk about, he needs to get a new contract and stuff. It was a real circus with Commons in the last couple of years, wasn't it, Liam?
They went full on Harry and Meghan for a while there, Funny paper. She was always, I think she was on the huddle board or Celtic Minded or something like that, posting.
Celtic Minded.
They tried to make them sound like part of their contract negotiations was they're going to be pillars of the Celtic community and that, and and I think she came from an Irish family as well, so it came natural to her. With him, I think he just liked being part of the boys and that, and the team. Because it did look like, as Stevie said, it did look like the last days of lad culture. And I think when he got to Brendan Rodgers as well, you got to remember managers talk as well, right? And they'll want to know, so what was the dressing room like? What was the things? Not just where were the faults in the park, where were the faults in the dressing room? And you never know if Dialect could just come out and say, you know what, they're all fine, but see that one's a mouthpiece. That one, that one threw me under the bus. And, you don't want a fox in the hen house. Rodgers knows that he's coming in to do a job. And if you've got the skill set of Commons and you're that disruptive, then you're expendable.
Aye. Without a doubt, and say it definitely reeked Brendan had him sussed on the way in, because I remember at the end of the season on Trophy Day in Brendan's first season, the Invincible Treble one, Commons and Ambrose both got special send-offs. It was the team couldn't lift the trophy and then introduced them, because I think they both spent the season for half a season on loan at Hibs. They came back for Trophy Day just to be with the boys and that. And they got a special introduction in that. I think Effie Ambrose may have got a bigger cheer than Chris Commons that day, if I remember correctly. But I do remember him getting special, Chris Commons, because he was leaving the club officially. But yeah, I think Rodgers had him sussed there. You can't be doing with that, with cliques and that, working, undercutting you and stuff. So yeah, that'll wrap it up. Now, there's probably loads more we could probably do. I say we're under a bit of a tight schedule tonight. We were on for about an hour and 45 last week, and we're coming up to that now.
Are we finished?
Yeah, we'll finish up the now, mate, because I know that you're on a particularly tight schedule. You're up at 5:30 tomorrow?
After the clock, so that's I only had a wee cheeky bottle of cider and a beer. That's it.
No worries.
Yeah, goodness.
It's one of these topics I can revisit again, because there's plenty of other guys that scored on their debut, had a great one.
Right. So here's one for you then. Can we let's jump it in, right?
Aye.
So we're just quick fire, because we've not spoke about guys, right?
Okay.
And we'll see if we know. I'll quiz you.
Yep.
So I've got a few goal scorers here.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to know if you know debutants, goal scorers. Don't know if you remember who they were and who they scored. So Tony Watt is my first one I'll ask you.
Motherwell was a brace and a free each draw, I think.
And do you remember the first goal comes in?
The first goal they scored, what it was like.
Yeah.
Was it not across the back post? He kind of
That's it. It's Wanyama. He just ghosts in.
Oh,
that's
it.
Aye. One for you, Liam. Timu Pukki.
Oh, I know that one.
Pukki. Who does he score against in his debut?
Timu Pukki. Wow.
No idea.
It's Hearts.
The Jam Tarts. Yeah.
Gordon.
The watery farts.
Yes.
How about that?
Aye.
So yep, it's a bit of a squib again. Ball comes in, they're under the cosh, they're under fire, balls are coming in from everywhere. Cross comes in, deflects up, and he's just centre, heads it home. Yep. Timu Pukki is a guy that I thought was going to hit the ground running.
Same, I thought. Yep.
Here's one for you. Yes. Ian
Wright, Kilmarnock, I'm going to say. Did we trash them like 5-0 or something?
Absolutely hurled them.
Yep. Yeah. Does he not score a goal and it gets disallowed and then he scores a few minutes later and it is allowed? But I'm sure it was Kilmarnock.
Great goal. It's a great goal. Very reminiscent of Larsson's diving header against St Johnstone.
Yes.
The ball gets fired in off Burchill and he's like a fucking torpedo, man. He comes in and headers it in. You're like, yes!
Ian Wright.
The other guy that we didn't cover, so one for you, Liam. Chris Sutton. Debutant goal scorer. Can you remember who he scores against?
Rangers, right?
No.
Was it not the 5-1 game?
No, it was a few weeks before that. He made his...
A team that are in danger of going down? Well, United. The ball gets bounced about, ping-balled in, and he's at the back post and he slides it in. Here's one forward. We spoke about defenders scoring. Ramon Vega.
Oh, who he scored against? Don't know. I think he scored a brace on it. I know he scored a brace on his debut. I know that, but I couldn't remember who it was against. I'll take a stab at Hibernian. That's just a guess.
Livingston.
Aberdeen. 18 minutes in his debut. And if you remember, it's a very reminiscent goal, very similar to the goal that Julian scores against Rangers. But the cross comes in. Okay. The cross comes in from the other side instead. The left-hand side comes in for the right. And that way where he just kind of cushions it, side foots it in. Very reminiscent to another key defender's goal. I'm just getting through these just for sheer boredom. I do apologise. I'm stealing your thunder. But it's just fun. Alan Thompson. Goal.
Oh, that is a tough one. Alan Thompson.
If I say I know the club, right? I've not went that far, but he scores. Scores a back healer.
Oh right, okay.
He scores a back healer, and the ball comes, and he just does a wee cheeky back heel. It's an absolute shider. But the last one that I will give you, just for let me get through these here. I mentioned Rami Gershon. We're not going down that fucking rabbit hole. Jan Venegura Hesselink. Do you remember Jan Venegura Hesselink's goal?
Hibernian. Shot hits the post and comes back to him and he puts it in the net. Scott Brown.
There we go. That's it.
Aye.
Yes, that's it. That's it. I am.
Well, you've led me on nicely. Nice wee tee up there for the old trivia from the start of the show, because obviously I asked about defenders that scored on their debut. You've mentioned some there, and we mentioned a few throughout the night. So it turns out there's 5. I said at the start there's 4. There's actually 5 since the year 2000 defenders that scored on their debut. So you said Ramon Vega. You've got him. We mentioned Shane Duffy during the show. He's one of them as well. But the other 3, well, you've mentioned one as well a minute ago, Rami Gershon. You actually said that. You said it earlier on the show as well. But there's 2 that haven't been mentioned.
Ruined that. I virtually ruined that.
There's 2 other centre backs that have scored on their debut, and a Celtic shirt in the 2000s. So 2000 to present day, basically.
Let me think here. Julian?
Not Julian, no. In fact, it might even be free, because I said at the start of the show that I was like, I had to throw this one together really late in the day because I've been all over the place today trying to get stuff sorted. I will give you one that is a definite right answer. Alan Wood's coming on this. I totally forgot about this. Maurice Yen scored in his debut. He did. But yeah, the other two, let's see if anyone's got. Oh yeah, somebody's mentioned one of them, and not Thomas Rogner, not Varga, not Hoyveld. Oh God, yes, Hoyveld. Jesus, no him. Let's see. Somebody has got one of them.
Oh no, but we mentioned Duffy. We mentioned him.
We got Duffy.
Right.
What was that one, Liam?
Darren O'D?
No. Good shout, by the way. That's a good outside the box think, that one. Darren did score in that Rangers Cup final. He did do that.
And you said defenders?
What, from what year?
The two of them, the years that they're from are from, I'll just say that they're from the 2010s decade, put it that way. So it's not like Martin O'Neill, Gordon Strachan either.
Oh, right. Okay. 2010. Fuck you, man. I hate this. 2010?
2010's era, so 2010 to 2019, that decade. It's somewhere in there.
Jason Denier?
Denier's one of them. Yeah, he was always good for a goal. Scored in
I'm thinking him or Van Dijk, but...
No, Denier scored in his first game for the club against Dundee United in a 6-1 trouncing. The other one is, you'll do well to remember this. He was good for a goal, but it's such an easily forgettable one, this goal.
Oh, fucking hell. I am struggling. Give us a hint. Is he a central or is he a wing? A central.
Central, yeah.
Mastranovic?
No, not Mastranovic.
That's a good shout, by the way. That's a fucking excellent shout.
It's not Mastranovic. That's a hell of a pick, though, but it's not him. Somebody who I'd say is probably better than Mastranovic, although he did have some calamitous moments. And so far, nobody in the chat has said this guy.
Calamitous moments.
Moments. Yeah, he did.
Gary Caldwell?
Oh, no. Wait a minute. Kelvin Phillips? No. What's the one? Kelvin.
The decent shout, but not the right answer. Kelvin Wilson, you're thinking about?
Aye.
Wasn't him. But I'd say a defender that started pretty bad, had a bit of a purple patch, and then he was still prone to a bit of calamity. It's not Effie Ambrose. People are saying in the chat Ambrose. People said Stephen McManus. It's no Stephen McManus. He's good for a goal. It's not him.
Let me think. Terrible defenders.
Amazingly, nobody has actually said this guy so far. I'm looking through all the names. We've had guys like Charlie Mulgrew guest, obviously Big Mick, Van
Glenn Loovens.
No Glenn Loovens.
Oh, for fuck's sake, I'm running out of shit defenders, man.
See if I told you this, right? The Green Brigade were coming out with a chant for this guy, and the chant was, "We didn't sign Denier. It doesn't matter because we signed
Boyata."
Oh! Dedrick, there you go. Peter Scully music. Right as I said that there, yes, Dedrick Boyata scored against an Icelandic team called Starnum in Ronnie's second season, and then he scored against Karabag in the next Champions League qualifier as well. But yeah, it was
Done, Peter.
was Dedrick Boyata. Yeah, he did.
That's a toughie, mate.
So you know what I mean when I said, like, he did find a purple patch in the Invincible season, but he was still prone to a calamitous moment, like here and there. He was one of those ones where he lost concentration. It could be real calamitous. But yeah, Dedrick Boyata is one of the answers. Rami Gershon, Shane Duffy, Jason Denea, Ramon Vega. Yeah, and hey, there might even be a few more. As I say, I had to throw that question together quite late on, but we've got a few of the names there. A few names have thrown up, so that wraps that one up. So yes, tomorrow,
yes,
carrier bag, FC carrier bag, yes. So yeah, that wraps up tonight's show. We're coming up to just the 2 hour marks. That's good stuff. We've done it nice and neat, just having up to 2 hours. So yeah, tomorrow, obviously Celtic's last league game of the season. It's an early kickoff for Celtic. It's trophy day. We're hoping to finish on a high because obviously performance has been a bit minging recently, but obviously Andrew's been given a few of the second string a run out to try and see what they're all about. And it's safe to say quite a few of them haven't impressed. So I'm expecting full strength tomorrow, similar to what the cup final team will be. And hopefully we run out comfortable winners. Russell will be doing PMP. I don't know. He mentioned something earlier on. I mentioned about maybe doing another fan cam again. I don't know because he usually works on a Saturday. So I'm not sure. That could be something that I don't know. Maybe he's got the day off. Maybe at the last minute he's managed to get the day off. But PMP will definitely be on. It might be one that's on later. Just depends on when he finishes work and so on. So yeah, that'll be on. Hopefully we've got a nice, comfortable victory to finish season on. So guys, before we go then, so Liam, what do you think tomorrow? Quick scoreline prediction?
I think they'll put on a show. I think it'll be 3-0, and I hope we get the extended coverage over here in Canada. We get to see all the families and all that out in the park with the players.
Martin O'Neill presenting the trophy as well. Oh, he'll be there for trophy presentation. He'll be there, so that'll be good.
No, maybe that will go a wee bit longer tomorrow, but I think it's tough. No,
the celebrations last year were really good. They were really good. But yeah, Steve, what did you say on TNF last night? What was your prediction again?
2-0 with a Kyogo returning the side and scoring the opener.
I went for a resounding 5-0. I thought, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to try and end on a bang. We beat Motherwell 5-0 on Trophy Day last season, so I'll say we'll end on a bang as well this season, 5-0 against Aberdeen. So yeah, guys, we are out of here. Looking for PMP tomorrow. Russell and Terry will be on at some point. And yeah, we'll catch you later. Enjoy the game tomorrow, folks. See yous.